This is a patella, and it serves for moving the power across the joint, the knee joint, to the lower leg.
One of the unique peculiarities of being human is that we walk on two legs, and this means that whereas the bones in the upper arm can be fairly slender and the muscles can be small and deal with fine movement, the bones in our two legs have to transmit all the force to the ground, and the muscles are very large. And we can see the point about weight bearing on our skeleton over here. If you compare the size, for example, of the humerus in our upper arm with the femur in our upper leg, you can see that the femur is substantially greater than the humerus. And if you could just pass me, we've got over here, thanks. Our bones are often taken to be dead, inert structures because we tend to see them in preserved skeletons like this. But in real life, they have a blood circulation going to them, and they're constantly being remodelled to take into account the stresses and strains that are falling on them. And we can see this very clearly in a bone like this. This is a femur that we've been able to bisect. And if I open this femur up here, you can see that it has a really quite striking internal structure. I'm just going to put one half down. And you can see that the bones are actually constructed a bit like a box girder bridge. There's a thick outside layer called the cortical bone, and inside there are numerous fine trabeculae of trabecular bone, and these small strands of bone serve to transmit the forces from the outer layers of bone through into the other outer layers of bone and maximise the strength of bone. The point of this is to have the maximum strength for the minimum weight, so we don't carry too many bones around with us, and these little trabeculae are constantly being remodelled throughout life. Now, another feature we should draw attention to at this point is our joints, because our joints are necessary for us, the muscles, to be able to move the bones on one another. And I can demonstrate some aspects of joints for you using this pelvis. First of all, the bones have to be very carefully held together, and the structures that do this are ligaments. Ligaments are these very, very tough connective tissue sheaths that extend from one bone to another bone. They're tightly bound to the bone at each side so that the bones can't come apart. And indeed, if you fall awkwardly or pull your bones awkwardly, a rip in one of these ligaments or a strain in one of these ligaments is known as a sprain. A sprain is when you actually damage the ligamentous sheath of the bones. In real life, bones are capped by a special structure called cartilage. And cartilage forms the interface between one bone and another bone. It's the glistening gristle that you see on bones in meat. But it has a very important structure. It's also constantly remodelled during life, and particularly important for the purpose of especially weight-bearing joints. It's self-lubricating. When one set of cartilage presses on another piece of cartilage, a tiny amount of the fluid inside the cartilage comes onto the surface, in a similar way to the way an ice skater is able to skate over the ice on a thin film of fluid. So the cartilage actually glide over one another on a thin film of fluid. And damage to this cartilage is particularly important in a condition, for example, osteoarthritis, where the cartilage gets damaged and the bones begin to grind directly onto one another, which is extremely painful and causes distortion of the bone and limitation of joint movement, and is in fact a very important cause of illness in our society, especially in elderly people. The patellar tendon here that's being exposed is one of the biggest tendons in the body, and these very large tendons often develop what are called a special type of bone, a sesamoid bone within them, and the kneecap or patella is the biggest such bone in the body, and the idea of this bone is it's located in the middle of this very big tendon to give added strength.
This moment is a real anatomical highlight. We see here on the end of the femur with its cartilage, we have opened the knee joint, and here are the cruciate ligaments. Here are both of the menisci on the outer and the inner side, and here is a patellar tendon going to the knee cap, and here the large quadriceps muscle. Now let's take action. I flap it back, and when I pull here, then the lower leg should go ahead. Again. The
individual parts of human anatomy are surprisingly heavy when they don't have muscular power of their own. So it's actually quite difficult to pull with your arms the lower leg, even though our quadriceps muscle in the thigh manages it with ease.
So much muscles, more muscles than I have in both of my biceps. Therefore, I have a hard time to move the lower leg in front.
Well, let's just remind ourselves where these muscles are over on our live model. If I could just turn Dennis round again here. Juliet's drawn the quadriceps femoris in the front of the thigh here, going down to the patella, which you can demonstrate moving for yourself by flexing and extending your leg. And then another group of muscles has been drawn here in the anterior compartment of the lower leg. These are the muscles which flex the foot, and the tendons can be seen there going into the foot. Well, we've seen quite a lot about muscles now. We've figured out roughly how they work. We've seen how they're attached to bones and how the bones move on each other. But what controls all this activity? Well, the central controllers are the brain and spinal cord, and they're buried deep inside our bodies, and that's what we're going to have a look at next.
So next, what I have to do to turn the body around, because all the muscle actions, they are actually commanded by the brain. So we have to expose now the brain. We have pre-dissected it to a certain extent, and I have to go a little bit up, knife, and I cut through the skull. No, I need the chisel. Well, it looks a little bit gross, but in the whole world they do it every day. All anatomists. So there's no other way, you know, to go inside the skull. Oh, I already see the brain. I'm sorry. 1 moment later, you will see it. I go to the other side.
The brain is a difficult organ to expose because it's hidden away inside a bony case, the cranium. And the reason for this will become apparent just as soon as we've managed to take the back off the cranium here and expose the brain.
I need a little bit more of the saw. We didn't pre-saw sufficient. Do it. Here. Yes, this should make it. With the okay. I go through the bone, through the base of the skull. I have to be careful and strong at the same time because suddenly it may fall down, and then what happens with the brain? The brain has a consistency of blanc, and when I touch it, it is elastic and very soft. So what I do now, because we want to show the brain and the spinal cord at one organ, I put it back, put it in the same natural condition, and now I like to show you the consistency of a brain in a simple experiment. We have actually prepared a plumage, and it has, you remember, exactly the same consistency. And when I drop it down here, up to 200 million nerve cells will look like that.